Hello, folks. Thank you for joining. Yeah, we are live as well. So let me share my screen quickly. We'll do the introductions while people are joining. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the BizKnight Product series. And I think I've repeating this for the 10th time. And I'm really so happy to repeat this for the 10th time because BizKnight Product series was designed to be a 10 episode series. And we are on the 10th episode today. So really so happy about that. We have finished all the 9 episodes, and today we have the 10th episode on product strategy on varied products, which Dinker would be talking about today. I think none of this would have been possible without a huge set of people who are either attending live or watching the recording on YouTube, and of course, answering all the quizzes very religiously as well. And I think so many people have actually got prizes as well, which we will see quite quickly. So I think with respect to the participants' experience, all the people who have registered, you can just be the registrants because next year we'll come up with another different series of BizKnight. So probably all the registrations, the registered participants would be used for that, for getting the invitations and everything. And even for the 10th episode, we have a quiz that's coming in. So with the 10th episode, we'll close the quiz. And I think you could see there are 10 spots that you would be seeing in your passport card or, travelogue, BizKnight travelogue. So ensure that you also get the 10th Avatorian for some prizes that you would see. With that, we'll just see who are all the winners for the third quarter of BizKnight Product Series. So these are the 4 winners for the fourth quarter, which is Yesha Desai, Nidhi Gupta, Suyash Vikram Agarwal, and Radhika Gupta. Once again, congratulations to all of these people who made to the third quarter. Yeah, with this, all excited that we'll get into the episode 10 of BizKnight Product Series, which is on product strategy across varied products. So how similar or different may the product strategies be for operating system, industrial automation device, particle physics research, software, real-time applications, online video ads, children's messaging app, job app, global banking platform, and enterprise software MVP and consulting assets. As you could see, it's all so varied across industries, across domains and everything. And that's what we are going to, and that's what Dinker is going to talk about today. If somebody has to talk about such a wide range of things, we need to know about the kind of profile that Dinker is carrying. I think there's so much to talk about Dinker, so I'll keep it very short. Dinker Charak has 24 plus years of experience and excels in aiding digital transformation initiatives and developing innovative revenue generating products. His expertise lies in delivering tangible value and generating concrete evidence of success, making him the principal for scaling asset-based consulting in Thoughtworks. He has experience in creating products for various sectors, including banking, manufacturing, software engineering, building design automation, and future-ready business architecture. And of course, you could see so much of these descriptions in the calendar invite as well. In addition to his accomplishments, Dinker has made significant contributions to top-tier research particle physics laboratories, namely Fermilab in the United States and CERN in Switzerland. He holds a patent in advertising technology, secured several provisional patents in Thoughtworks, and has authored blogs and books on product management. Dinker actively shares his insights and experiences through his blog. So there's a site, probably I'll just give his website. You can check his blogs, very interesting ones. And hosts a podcast titled Let Us See Where It Goes, and also various other podcasts as well. Furthermore, he volunteers as a mentor and workshop facilitator for product managers, collaborating with CIIE, NASSCOM, and Thoughtworks to empower aspiring professionals in the industry. I've just kept it very short, and this is the short introduction of Dinkers. So with that, probably I'll hand over to you, Dinker. Thank you so much for being our speaker today.
Thanks. You made me look much better than the profile picture coolers. So thanks for that. I wanted to share this because I'm trying to write a book on product management. And one of the things that we start writing is, hey, what does product strategy mean? And I put together something. And I was looking at it and I was a little skeptic. My worry was that, in product management being such a hot topic, there are so many things happening on LinkedIn. You'll see so many articles on LinkedIn, so many Venn diagrams, so many neat, multi-circular diagrams. And I was worried, am I also making one of those? And does this theory really match the reality? And what I did was that I took the most common representation of what a product strategy means, and I started to compare it against the kind of products that I've built in my career. If you look at it, product strategy has no formal meaning, but everywhere it seems that everyone agrees that product strategy is combination of various strategies which are brought together with the aim of bringing some value to the person who's buying that product. That means that product exists in the market. So you need to understand that market. You need to understand what are the opportunities there. You need to have a vision and a goal about that product. You need to understand who your users are, what the personas are, what are the jobs they're trying to do, all those details. You need to understand funding, how to raise fund to build it, how to give a brand to it, and how do you differentiate it. Followed by, you need to have a roadmap, and you need to help a team which is developing that product. You need to think about pricing. You need to think about cost, and what are the various resources that you would need to build and run that product. You have to think about distribution. How will people, end customers, end users, and there's a subtle difference between the two. How will they get it, and what's your go-to-market strategy? You have to think about measurements, gathering feedback, and based on that, making adaptations. You have to think finally about collaboration and competition. So every product is part of an ecosystem. How are you connecting with other products in that ecosystem who you're competing with? Sometimes you're collaborating with them also. Finally, legal compliance and regulations becomes a very nice diagram, and does intimidate some first-time product managers that, oh my God, all of this. And another layer is that what a product manager ends up doing is also a function of the organization they are in. A startup would have different focus on these kind of some of these. An enterprise may have different focus, and if you're a consulting product manager, you may have different focus. So let's go back, and what I want to do is kind of go through the products that I've built, look at what the market was asking for, how this product tapped onto that opportunity, how did they strategize on winning that opportunity, and what happened to them. And I want to make a kind of that this was the element of product strategy that got applied, and come back to this diagram and see if this makes any sense or not. One thing I do want to call out is I'll kind of go through product journeys of bunch of products. So if you have a question about a product or about that strategy or that thought process, do ask a question or raise your flag, because then that question will be very contextual. Otherwise, some of the people who are not asking that question may not be able to connect to the product that I was talking about. So the first product I want to talk about is in 1999, 98 kind of time period, when Windows 2000 was coming up, and operating systems and SDKs used to be in form of CD-ROMs. And at that time, the whole distribution of product was a whole different beast. Building products was a different thing. And I was working with one such organization who had an opportunity to bid for manufacturing, bringing together a computer, stuffing it with some software, and then supplying it to a large organization. So they had an opportunity to sell up to, I think, 1,000, and that was a very big number. 1,000 was a big number in 1993. So obviously, as part of RFC, the default was that lowest bid wins. So what they thought was that, how are we going to differentiate ourselves? Yes, we are going to minimize the cost. Do we have any differentiation? At that time, there was a technology called SCSI, and those hard disks had very good throughput. So if you're writing large files, it would happen faster. And they said, okay, that's going to be our USP. And they kind of got together this whole group and say that our aim is to minimize the cost so we can bid at the lowest number and also make some money out of it. So what they did was, the first action they did was that, let's get a low cost team put together, right? People have always been one of the most expensive asset in a tech company. It has been true since the beginning of my career. And they made certain bets. Now, if you're bringing in low cost team, you're bringing, I mean, this was right after my college. I'm writing a SCSI device driver. And those of you who have suffered blue screen of death on Windows know that the biggest cause of failures in operating system are badly written device drivers. That's the most common reason. And it's probably because of people like me who were writing the software at very early in their career. But in early on, the way this model got set in was that the end consumer was not always the user. These were large enterprises, and everyone kind of expected that 10% of problems to happen, 10% of equipment not been working because of all the manufacturing past, right? So what the bet this organization made was that we got this low cost team. They're all smart people. We have interviewed them. They will figure out. But if something goes wrong, anyway, we will bid for the annual maintenance contract. We will bid for support, and at that time we'll take care of these issues, right? And the other thing they had was that the bidding process is very slow, so we have time to build. And you can see the seeds of certain culture of how IT grew till there were much better practices that came later, because all of this was coming from manufacturing, and it was okay in manufacturing to think like this. And definitely much years later, this kind of thought process got disrupted, at least in the SCSI industry, right? But they did their bid, they made their money, they won the bid, they won the annual maintenance contract, and I was moved away from that position after 1 year, because by that time all the issues had been figured out. So now I think that was quite a miracle, right? But it worked out. And I was looking, what was their product strategy at that time? I don't think anyone sat down, looked at a list, and or even strategized, to be honest, at that time. Most of the time, the strategy was that we need to focus on cost management and resource allocation. If you ask what was the biggest focus in that product, that piece of strategy was their focus. And that's how this was. Now, if you look at it, this product was as an intersection of hardware and software. So software itself was not the product, but this combination was the product that they were selling. I want to talk about something that followed it. So this was 2000 2001, and the Windows 95 was the prevailing product, and Windows NT was doing very good. Windows 2000 was coming, but it still hadn't penetrated that well. And in this scenario, this product was that we will make a printer driver that if you choose that printer and you print something, it will actually end up creating an image of what you were printing and save it in a certain directory. Sounds fair? So the business opportunity there was that these were early days, and people were more used to reading from paper. Kindle wasn't there, of course. Digital phones were not there, of course. So there was no way people could, and the only way they could read was on these desktop computers only at work. So people used to take out printouts, go home, read stuff, manuals, large documents. Printing paper was an enormous cost in enterprise. So what the USP of this product was that they said, we'll give you an alternative to printing without breaking the user experience. And that was the goal. And what was this user experience? So if you think today, right, when we print out something, the biggest thing is that the format is preserved, right? And that turned out was the reason why a lot of people were preferring printed material, because now certain WYSIWYG tools had come, you could format things, you could insert images. That was a big draw. So what were the actions they took? Again, they said that, it's a part of a larger paperless solution, a paperless office solution. It's a very important component. So let's get some low-cost expertise in. And the bets they were making was that we don't need to worry about adoption. For product managers, people are building this product, any kind of product, adoption of that product is a big thing, right? So they made a bet that we are not going to go and sell this product. We are not going to go and talk to, hundreds of users about this. We are going to leave it to the organization. Some order will pass and everyone will stop using actual printers and they will start using it. There was another big thing, right? This printer could print in three formats: one black and white, one 16 color, and one 256 color. And then later on, once all these things were available, then they had this 16 million color options. So, and this was bitmaps, so you can imagine the file size becoming big. So the other bet they made was that this is going to happen over the LAN, and LAN can take these big size images. And of course they were disrupted in few years with the emergence of PDF standard and adoption of PDF, and PDF reader coming from Adobe. So if you look at it, what they did was they saw an opportunity of enormous cost. And they said that, hey, this is an opportunity where we could go and sell this idea to one stakeholder who is going to give us the money, who's going to ensure adoption. So the selling process is easy. So they understood the market and the opportunity very well. And if you look at it, what was the biggest focus area in this was getting that market, having that market understanding and identifying that opportunity. And they did do very well till PDF became very prevalent and ubiquitous, and they stopped this driver and they just replaced with save as a file in PDF. The third product that I want to talk about is when this is around 2002 when you could actually go and create a website of 5 or 10 pages, and that could actually earn you a lot of business, and it could get a lot of funding. So even I tried it. I also built a website. It had 34 pages. That was the key metric at that time. But VCs were a little reluctant to fund it because it had a little bit of legal component. But if you look at that time, this was the environment in which this organization had a very interesting idea. They said, we want to build home automation hub. Their opportunity was that smart devices are coming. This is 2002. I don't know how many of you were professionals at that time. I'm guessing a lot of you are quite young folks. And at that time, Sears and all these big chains were saying that we will have refrigerators which will tell you if some milk is running over. We will have washing machines that will tell you that we need maintenance. So very visionary stuff, right? The smart devices are coming. If smart devices are coming, they need to talk to each other and they need to talk to internet. And they said, okay, that means if they're going to talk to each other, how are they going to talk to each other? That means we need to lay a wire between all these devices, connecting them. And we need to connect this wire with some home controller that will connect with internet with the rest of the world. And what they decided was, as a product, our goal is to take factory automation. In factory, there are these big, like the device that I had shown, big, data buses, control buses, all those data and control signals going, they control large machines. This is how we will control everything. So the actions they took was, first, get a low-cost set of developers, mix them with in-house expertise. Now here, the first time I started seeing the trend that low-cost developers can't solve everything. You need some expertise. So they kind of started mixing that. And if you look at it, till now, one common thread you will see is the first instinct is, let's get the team together, right? Low cost, whatever combo, but in the product development, the first thing was, let's get some people together. A very interesting trend. We'll see if this changes and what your experience is these days, right? And they made some bets. First bet, obviously, VCs will pour in money, and all we need to do is show them a demo. If the demo works, everything will be okay. And what we built was a demo in a briefcase. So it was actually a briefcase that one of the executives to go show to the VCs. It had this controller, it had a light, and then I could switch on and off a button, and the light used to go on and off. And all this was happening on an industrial strength bus with an industrial strength controller with a battery cable, which was simulating the 110 power, because their design, the power cable that runs through the home was going to carry the internet signals, right? So very interesting design. And of course, in few years, they were thoroughly disrupted by Wi-Fi. So in case some of you are wondering that, why are they doing all this? Why can't they just put things on Wi-Fi or even RJ45? This is a little early days. Yes, Wi-Fi came. Bubble also burst, and they couldn't go much forward. But if you look at it from product strategy, their focus was on, let's get funding and let's think of a differentiation, right? We are an organization that builds factory automation. Our product is different because we are going to focus on home, and we bring this expertise in. So that became their interesting work there, right? Then I want to talk about the other scenario, and this is the time when there are this is photograph of Fermilab. It's a physics research lab, and they are a particle research lab. So in particle physics, what essentially happens is you take a proton, you generate antiprotons over a period of time. When you have sufficient antiprotons, you make them protons go in one direction clockwise along this 5-mile circumference ring. Antiprotons go in other directions. And at one specific point, you intersect the two beams, and you expect that randomly 3-4 of these things will collide with each other. Like every collision, they will break each other and burst into subatomic particles, and we will track that, and this is how we will do physics. What that also meant was that there is electromagnetic rays have a tendency to go straight. You're making it go in circles. So there are magnets which are deflecting it. Magnets means there are control systems. You have spray happening, which is going through data acquisition systems. So there is data acquisition happening, bunch of computing happening, right? And the way this was happening was on top of these single board computers. And these are very old Motorola microprocessors, 63080s, these kind of things. And they kind of go into a crate because these are very industrial areas. So you can see that it kind of slides into a crate. There is a place to screw the board to the crate so vibration doesn't cause too much of trouble. And in the back end, there is a bus, VME bus. And today we talk about Kafka for sending messages across enterprises. And at that time, these buses did not exist in software. They existed as physical wires. So this is that bus interface. What that meant was this was running an real-time operating system. And this is where the third product comes in, right? So today we are used to installers, even virtual operating systems, or maybe even get a operating system on a DVD and just run it off the DVD and take it off. And early on also there used to be the installers, but in real-time operating system, because these single board computers tend to have different kind of configuration, different kind of devices, different kind of chips on it, you cannot just quote unquote install. There's no installer for it, right? You have to configure everything. You have to say that include this driver, exclude this driver, include this configuration of the driver. So what that meant was that for a fleet of hundreds of these computers, it became a nightmare. Everyone had their own configurations. Everyone had their own setups. They were built at different times. They were built using different tool chains. So suddenly, if you have these hundreds of boards, computers controlling your such a big complex laboratory, such a complex system, right, becomes very difficult to keep track of things. And what this team's product was that we will give you standardized operating system. You can imagine how things have evolved, right? Giving a standardized operating system that we will have version A, B, C for 3 kind of scenarios that will serve everything. Was a big deal, right? And their goal was that we will give you these operating systems. You can use them to run your physics applications on it. And the advantage, our goal is to control licensing fee and also licensing cost compliance, in the sense I have an image. I've told the central people that, hey, I'm using one computer with one image on it, but I've gone ahead and made it available to 5 more. So from the licensing component, these are now 6 boxes. I need to pay for 6. But this is all happening internally. I was testing something, I put something, now it's part of the production. It's like code once written, gone into production, never dies. It's a big effort to clear the tech debt, right? This is tech debt at a whole different scale. So our option, this was our value proposition. The way we started doing this was, this time, if you notice, get people together was not the first action. The first action was get the infrastructure together. So the idea was that operating system, these real-time operating systems, they have a basic image, a ROM, which we see in our computers also. In Windows, we see is, it comes up. In Mac also, it comes up. Then it picks an OS image from the C drive or from the primary Mac drive. In most of these places, it will picking it from a remote host. So we provided those hosts. We said, these are the 3 files you can pick. The biggest bet was taking that the physicists, the users who love physics, are very brilliant folks. Computing is like, pastime for them. Will they give up creating their own operating system versions, their own nuances, their own tweaks to the operating system, and go standardize? That was a big bet they took. And that, in all this variety of use cases and type of computers, few versions will work. It did. And I put nothing in disruption because I don't think anything really disrupted this. This world is still as complex. And if you look at it from product strategy, the biggest focus was, how do we create something, and what is the distribution of it, and what is the GTM of it? How will we convince the physicist, hey, we are not taking away your freedom, right? We're just making it easy for you so you can spend more time doing physics rather than computer science. So that was the thought process behind this product. The next one I want to talk about is high availability platforms. So embedded systems, we know about it. We know devices are everywhere. We know every device, so many devices will have a microprocessor, a OS running on it. And if you look at it at the core of it, I don't know how many of you folks have a technical background and may understand the image on the left-hand side. But those who have not, I'll just quickly give you an idea that at the end of the day, everything is set of instructions which are running in memory. That's what it tries to represent. These instructions are executable code which goes into something called text. All of these instructions, we say that, hey, my laptop needs so much of RAM, because when I start one program, it needs some additional memory. So that's what it needs. But as it is running, it needs some memory for doing some placeholders for some calculations, so on and so forth. It has some inbuilt data. It has some volatile data. So everything kind of goes into this memory. And this is around 2005, when high availability platforms are becoming popular. On the rooftops in India and elsewhere, you'll start seeing these big antennas which have actually, for mobile phone, start coming up. So these devices have started showing up where it is very difficult for someone to go and start operating things, right? So even, for example, if you look at your rack space kind of scenarios, right? Very difficult to go actually hook up something, diagnose things, or even go and reboot something. So the product was that, we will do this, but the only difference is that we'll be able to fix things while they are running in memory. So a program is running, we will pause that program, we will diagnose what is wrong with that program, we will insert a fix for that problem, and we'll restart the program, right? So think of a process running in memory. So you pause the process, in memory, you change the code of that process. So that means if it goes down, brings up, something has to be changed on the disk image, so it comes with the new updates, right? So their opportunity again was, we are going to manage the field, fleet of network devices, and we will save the cost of field engineers. And if you see this trend, right, reducing the cost of people has been a big thing in tech, because every new tech brings in more people as operations and developers. And as it matures, people want to reduce the people. And those people now bring in more tech, more capability, more awesomeness, and kind of this cycle keeps on going up. And that's why, in our industry, people skills and people hired kind of always kind of is a very cyclical thing. So what they said was, our USP is that because you're a high availability platform, we'll just pause your program, do the fixing, and let it go. So we don't need to bring down the system, hours of coming down, then will it come back up and all that. What if it gets stuck? Who will press the reset button? Are we going to have a physical? So solved all those problems. And how they did was that, hey, we are an organization which builds real-time operating systems. So our goal is to take all these knowledge and actually build something like that. And they did. So in this case, what they did was, this was something very interesting. This was an organization which had sold their product to every possible customer. Now imagine, they have sold their product to every possible customer, and every product that that customer could buy has already been sold to them. So they're thoroughly saturated. So they are now thinking of new products. And now what is happening is, the reason they kind of thought of a startup like team is because such a regulated thing, such a regulated environment, they cannot just have their regular engineers work on something new, because before the first step was taken, these engineers used to tell them, hey, what about this regulation, this, right? So they thought, we need to try something else. So they created this startup like environment, and the bet they made was that startup will bring something useful, which will be bought by some customer, and which the rest of the organization will absorb. We hear a lot as product managers about product market fit. I think one of the biggest complexities for enterprises today is product organization fit. People do create products, they create variants, some skunk work products happen, sometimes in hackathon awesome products happen, but do these products fit the vision, goal, and purpose of the organization is a big challenge. And there was some experience that I have. If we have time, we can go through that also, right? So they were making a bet that whatever startup produces will be absorbed by the organization. They're still not disrupted, because I think this problem still exists. There are much better tools done in much more sophistication. But I think as a product, this still has life. And if you look at it, they were again doing the same thing. They were spinning off a startup. They say, you'll build something at low cost, and if there is a customer, then we will invest more into you, and or that customer's business will invest more into you. They were looking at differentiation, right? So that was the aspect of product strategy which became very important, very much applicable in this world. The next one that I want to talk about is online video advertising. Now, most of us hate ads. Most of us hate spams. In fact, if I may dare say, the invitation to this event that a lot of you got also in some way was advertising, maybe was spam to the people who didn't want to come. But again, some people did come. Some people do join BizKnights. So the idea is that, unfortunately, this is such a low efficiency model of advertising that businesses need to go and broadcast to reach that 1-2%, which they have no idea where they are, and they need to reach to them. And if they try to know too much about it, it kind of goes into the creepy space and targeting, and oh my God, you know so much about me, right? So in this scenario, with this mindset, I ended up in an organization. We started building online video advertising. And what this advertising was that it was early 2010s, 11, 12. And this was the time when watching videos online became a real thing. People used to throw statistics like 57% of internet users have watched video. So this is little, right? They are not saying that 50% are continuously watching. 50% have watched video. right? In 6 7 months, one time someone has watched video and they have shared it, right? That was the opportunity, and people saw that coming and said, my God, videos are going to be big. uh, I think they were right in their assessment, right? They said, you know what, that means, where if this is an audience, that means businesses will want to reach them. That means advertising will be needed. So what can we do? What can we do different, right? Let's allow someone to make video ads for online. That will be, and how are we going to do it? So the goal was that we are going to create a studio where someone can take stock videos, put text on it, put call to action, right? Click here, or so on and so forth, right? And generate tags. And tag was the most important thing. If you go back, if you notice the previous image, this ad is running on a website. So HTML tags are needed. And at that time, Google ad managers were not very sophisticated. So most of the times, publisher ops people used to copy paste an ad tag. Then ad servers came into picture, so they will put it in the ad server, and ad servers tag will sit on it. So we had those capability. It can generate tags either for direct pasting on a web page to show the ad, or going into ad server with the connection, so that we could know that these many views happen, these many clicks happen. And then the bigger thing was around measurements, right? What does a view mean? So on a banner ad, the moment the page loads, the image shows, that's a show. An ad was shown. In video, what does it mean? When I show the thumbnail, when the video starts playing, when the video has reached 50%, when video has reached 70%, 100%. What if someone closed at 99%? Did they not watch the video? All these discussions were happening, right? And that time, the first thing this team did was they hired the best talent to build the ad builder. So people are again coming into picture, right? So you see this trend, right? Wherever something new is being built, the team which is going to be building it becomes very key, right? So again, they bought these people and they hired people for sales. And this is when the software development is maturing to some extent. So if you look at it, now they're thinking we need to validate our product, right? We need to go and start selling it from day one almost. And if no one is willing to buy it, or they're saying do this, do that, we can improve. So the validation cycle started coming in. So these are startups, how they're behaving in 2012, so on and so forth, right? So the bets they took was big brands will want video ads, but the big brands have big advertising houses creating these awesome movie starring video ads for them. But SMEs will also, so they will need some way of creating their own ads, right? I don't think this has disrupted as such. These kind of studios are still going. Even in case of Gen AI, people are creating videos which they are then using for advertising purpose. And if you look at it from product strategy purpose, the focus here was understanding the target user and user persona. So if you look at it, for the first time, the users are gaining importance. If you look at it, it's kind of evolution, because when the products were being used by employees or people who have to use it, they don't have a choice. Nobody cared about their experience. Like boss will say you have to use this, people will start using it. Even today, to be honest, if you look at it, right, many of you can look at your organizations or your client organizations or your friends organization, right? The internal portals are so but that organization creating something awesome as, let's say, WhatsApp interfaces, Google interfaces, right? So there is little bit of that, right? But this is when target users, user persona became. And if you look at it, having a roadmap and the development became important, because now they're learning from the market, so they need to bring in. And this is first time I saw that word product manager being used. And I was the first product manager to be brought in. So this is in some way also kind of giving me an indication that even though management is maturing, software development is maturing, agile is being taken up, all of this. But if you think at it, the core of product strategy still seems to have certain bases which are still making sense. Then there was an opportunity that iPhone and Androids are becoming available everywhere. So this is the time that I thought that having done successfully the previous startup as a early employee, I can do this. I can be a founder. I can create an awesome product. And with all the enthusiasm of a founder, I jumped into this. And we thought that we're going to create something for kids, right? So our value proposition was that, uh, kids do want to do messaging. They're already doing it sometimes. These are early days of Facebook. When everyone was on Facebook, even children were on Facebook, they started introducing, age checks and all that much later. But parents were still worried. So our USP was that you got the same messaging, but no unwanted person can come and chat. And I'll explain later what that meant, how we could do that. And our goal was to create a messaging app for kids 6 to 13, because post 13, we noticed that most of the parents were allowing kids to use, social media. Before 6, it's too small, right? So we wanted to build this. And our model was that kids do want to talk to their friends, grandparents. So the app that we built, right, first what we did was we brought this team together, started building it. And this time, the team was built from the perspective day one that we will learn from the market, we will learn from the rejections, we will learn from the acceptance, and adapting is going to be our key focus area. So the bets that we took was that safety is a concern. And COPA certification, it's a law in US, which it's Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. So countries like UK, Australia also have similar laws. The bet we made was that we will get this kind of certification. What we learned was that, in places like India, where kids themselves are actually the IT support for their parents, this is not going to fly, right? But we did realize, we went and looked in countries where there are regulations around this, children using, collecting data. And we said, in those places, it will fly. But COPA certification did not happen, because it was, COPA certification was at that time focusing a lot on registration and, tracking the location of the children. But children were actually talking, even though we were not saving the message of the content of the message. We were tracking the data exchanges happened, the metadata, right? Because we wanted to calculate who is talking to whom, what is the network effect, how many messages are going through the day. And that's when we realized that it's not going to happen. We need to pivot. And then we pivoted and we created a version which is available for everyone. And it had a huge spike. And the reason was that companies started disallowing usage of Facebook, all these on office computers. So people started going and using rootkits on desktop because the filters didn't know about this. So they were kind of circumventing. But we figured out that soon they will discover it will also get blocked. And these people were not willing to, bring any money, pay for this service. So if you look at it, our product strategy was understand target users, their persona, build for it. But we're also very careful about understanding what the legal and compliance aspect about this is going to look like. And after doing this exercise, we have only 10-15 minutes left. I want to leave some time for Q&A also, and kind of cover few other aspects also. I'll not complete a lot of it. But as I went and I did it all across, I realized one thing. These principles have stood the test of time. Even before these principles were laid out in this manner, in this fancy diagram, these made sense. But I realized one thing which was very shocking for me from the small sample of my personal experience. One thing that I've seen that no one, just to use scandalous, provocative terminology, nobody cared about visions and goals. And I'm trying to understand why was this happening? What I realized was that every product was going in with such a such an uncertainty into such ambiguous environments that none of the product leader really believed that the vision or the goal that we will set will really survive the the hit with the market. And I'm a product manager now. I do talk about vision, I do talk about goal, so this is a little jarring for me. I still haven't absorbed it, but it seems to be there. Would love to hear what some of you may think about it. The other thing that I realized was that measurement and feedback does not come from the beginning, has not come, and this is very shocking. I advocate about it. Those who have been following me, the other work that I do, other passion that I have is around metrics. We are talking about Evo metrics. Very passionate about metrics. So it's really, it's really making me nervous that this sample that I'm looking at, where businesses are building something, metrics kind of comes later. And I'm not talking about operational metrics, even goals and everything, right? It kind of happens later. So that's what my learning has been about what product strategy means. What this does this fancy diagram, which you will see in a lot of LinkedIn posts, a lot of product management books, maybe mine in future. Is this just theory or is it real? Looks like it is real. And it withstands introspection when we look at a variety of products. Yeah, if you folks have any questions, we can discuss them. Otherwise, I can talk about a few more products, especially about product organization fit. And any questions till now, you can raise your hand. Okay. I'll take that as no questions as of now, which is good. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was, which I have not, covered here explicitly, is this collaboration and competition, right? So one of the things that I have seen witness, and though not as part of the products that I have built, is a growing trend as part of product strategy is how will we kill the product? So if you look at the traditional product management, product life cycle, it used to be you create something, it goes through its adoption curve. When laggards also adopt your product, it kind of goes into a maintenance light on mode. Sometimes you spin off something out of it, it gathers its own life. Sometimes you try to evolve it, but a product ultimately dies. And the new trend is that as you are thinking of maturing the product, as a product manager, as part of product strategy, you're also thinking of how I myself am I going to kill it, how my product will cannibalize it. So collaboration and competition is quickly turning, adding one more C to it, which is cannibalization, where organizations themselves want to kill their product and replace it with their product rather than a competing product coming in. This has been done by Apple. It has been done by Facebook. It has been done by Google. And it's now being thought of in enterprises also, as they're doing it for various enterprise products. And one of the things that makes it very difficult is the team which is working on something cannot find it very difficult to extract themselves out of that and now start thinking also, for 1 hour we will think how we will cannibalize it. So most of the time what people are doing is extracting out a team, which again looks at the problem statement, opportunities from the scratch, almost kind of builds it from the scratch. So the term skunk work has become very popular. A lot of organizations have kind of created this. Many organizations call it an innovation thread, which will bring new things. But at the end of the day, they are willing that if one of those new things does take off, we are okay to kill our existing product and replace it with something new, right? And the only thing that works in this scenario is a clarity around product organization fit. So, for example, I uh, I I'm I know of an organization. I'm very closely watching them in their public domain, right? What these organizations are trying to do is that, hey, let's spin off this team, let's give them the resources to build something, and they're kind of creating a competition within each other. And the only way these products will be successful if you look at the purpose of the organization and ensure that the product solves the purpose of the organization. The new product may not work well with the current organization totally also. The organization may have to change how it sells. The most common change that happens is the way of selling, right? A lot of organizations have sales teams, they have sales flows, they have marketing, they know how to sell in a certain way. Then a new product comes in which has to be sold in a different way. So there is a lot of retraining that happens. This new team proves it, and then the organization absorbs it. So this organization and product organization fitment is, I think, the next big thing, which is going to be a topic of discussion on LinkedIn, because as product organization want to uh, get disrupted by themselves rather than someone else, will think a lot about how to create these disrupting products that will bring value to the organization, and they will look for these product organization fitments. And would like to hear your thoughts also. Some of you could speak and share your thoughts about your organization, product organization fitment experience till now. So we have 5 more minutes, so I'll pause on this. And if you have any questions about the previous product strategies and the one that I talked about, collaboration and competition, and the third C, which is adding to it, which is cannibalization. Okay, so I'll take that that you folks are thinking about it for now. That sounds fair. So Divakar, if we have few more time moments, maybe I could cover one more topic in product management. Is that okay?
Sure, Dinker. And I think from the audience, if there are any questions or any thoughts that you want to share or some experience from your side, you can please share that as well. It's more conversational only. But otherwise, yeah, Dinker over to you.
Sure. So I want to give an example of cannibalization as a product strategy within a large enterprise. Now, imagine, right, let me take example of, let's say, a bank, right? A bank is a very heavily regulated industry. Though sometimes they do create trouble and we wonder what happened to those regulations, but in general, they're heavily regulated. Everything, every piece of code, every functionality, every product, every business product, software product, every banking product, even terms and conditions, everything goes through a very strict legal requirement, and kind of legal scrutiny. So the banks are almost incentivized never to innovate, right? And that's why a lot of these neo banks came in, thoroughly hammered traditional banks, but haven't really replaced these banks to be to that order, because the moment they themselves are becoming that big, those regulations and everything is getting applicable on them also, right? So for example, in India also, we saw the rise of fintech startups. Did very good when they were growing, but the moment they have become big proper businesses, a couple of them, you start hearing in the news, they are now undergoing those kind of scrutiny as would a regular bank, right? So that disadvantage of small affecting small audience goes away, and now that you have an advantage of full market, these become applicable, right? So in these kind of scenarios, it becomes very difficult for banks to, for example, innovate. So those of us who kind of come from consumer world, for us, thinking of an MVP is a very simple thing, right? We think that we'll create an MVP, we'll do some A/B experiments, we'll expose it to the users, we'll gather their feedback, we will learn from it, and we'll spin off this product, and then we'll make big business, big business out of it. But banks cannot do that, right? They cannot create an MVP. Even a single line of capability which is put in front of a user will need a lot of uh, basic components that are going with it. A lot of legal security that will be going through it, right? They cannot change things very often, and especially if they are making financial decisions on top of it, it becomes more difficult, right? So if you have written a smart algorithm which quickly figures out that Dinker is applying, as soon as Dinker says I'm interested in a loan, I can go and analyze Dinker and guess that probably Dinker wants to buy a new car, and based on last two cars, this is the kind of car he's upgrading to, so he needs this much money, and let me give him this much of loan pre-approved, and say that, and if you're buying a car, we can do a deal, right? If let's say someone says that let's create something like this, becomes very difficult, right? Because that bank could also say no to me, and the moment they say no to me, I have been deprived of a financial opportunity by a bank. So this becomes a very complex regulated thing, right? So in these scenarios, it becomes very difficult for banks to cannibalize. An MVP definition that we product managers use a lot kind of becomes even more complicated. So from that perspective, cannibalization today is much more easy for B2C organizations rather than B2B and banking and fintech. But I'm hoping that in coming years, this trend will change and some mechanisms will come which will allow banks to adopt much more smarter product strategies. So that's all I wanted to share. We have 1 minute left. So if enough you have any questions or any thoughts, please go ahead.
Just on the last part, Dinker. So because I have worked in the financial service industry, so what we have seen or witnessed in the history is that because the banks deal with a large amount of people's money, and it has also a lot of bearing on the economy as such. So we have seen what can happen in 2008, 2009. So that's why those regulations are. But yeah, there are certain sections of the bank because the new age banking companies or fintechs, as we're seeing, there's still a lot of inefficiency in things like KYC, where they are trying to have some pie of the entire process which they can automate. And we have seen what CRED and everyone is trying to do. Yeah, it is regulated, but yes, there's still some things that can be done, and that's why we have seen likes of CRAD and other fintechs which are trying to get into this.
Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Anyone else? No. Great. Thank you everyone for staying back. Hope this was an interesting conversation. BizKnight YouTube channel is there, and if you like, do click and subscribe. That's all people that say. People always say that whenever word YouTube comes, so out of habit, I'm also repeating them. And leave a comment. So before we finally wind up, thanks again, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tinker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the session.